just to give you a perspective, CMS IT is a system integrator, focused on primarily on the domestic market. Um, and when I say system integration, what is it that I mean? What we do is to, set up, the IT infrastructure for our customers, uh, design and implement it, roll it out, and then sustain it over a period of time. So it kind of covers the full life cycle. So I won't look at our business as broken up into system integration and managed services. We are a system integrator, and as a part of being a system integrator, we offer system integration services, break fix support services, and managed IT services. So that is a more appropriate way of looking at it, because that then fits all our businesses into one big picture rather than looking at it in a disjointed manner. The genesis as to why I joined CMS, and why we have managed to reach where we have reached, is primarily because if you see in the last 7 to 8 years, all tier one companies have revisited their India strategy, and progressively they have defocused from the domestic market. Tier 2 play had vanished. So there was a vacuum in the market. And, our view was that because now the technology paradigm has changed, a new set of players will come in, which will fill in this vacuum. So that is really the thought process, and that is the vision that we had when we started, when I joined CMS in 2013, and we started the transformation journey. So at that time, CMS was primarily into break fix, support services. From there, we have come a long way, and we have become a full-fledged system integrator. First of all, I don't think there has been a consolidation in the market. It is just that the tier 2 play vanished, and tier 1 companies revisited their India strategy. There were many reasons for that. I would like to get into those reasons. Uh, so that's point number one. Point number two, if you see, Indian MNCs, have kind of defocused from India, and as you rightly mentioned, that the global MNCs have a footprint in India. Now, there is a reason for that. If you look at Indian IT companies, global markets is far more lucrative, for them. That is one. And, second is all Indian companies, in 2008, 2009, 2010, bid for large, government projects. They ran into huge outstandings, and that really prompted them to, revisit that India strategy. And whenever such a thing happens, and the pendulum swings from one end of the spectrum to the other end, then you tend to throw the baby with the bathwater. So that is the story as far as Indian IT companies are concerned. As far as global companies are concerned, there are two differences. One difference is that if you take IBM, or if you take DXC or any of these companies, they have a product to offer. So, their primary focus is really on products, and services is really, not incidental, but in a way secondary, to their product business. As far as MNCs are concerned, they have a product to offer in the domestic market, right? And that becomes their focus. And obviously, they are very large MNCs, and they focus on each and every geography. And for them, India is really a growth market. The only exception to that is Accenture, because Accenture doesn't have a product; it is primarily a services company. But if you look at Accenture is not present all over in the market. They they focus on very select customers and for select propositions. So that is as far as the second part answer to the second part of your question is concerned. The third part is that what makes CMS tick in the market. And our value proposition to our customers is very simple. One, we have execution capability of a large company. I mean, if you look at my career, I've spent, before I joined CMS, I've worked in almost all large companies. So
Exactly.
same is also true about the team which is in CMS. So we have kind of been there and done that. So if we get a project, we have the ability to execute, which is what the customer looks for. And we are able to personalize our services to our customers. I mean, typically, if let's say I was working in a large company, I wouldn't go for a steering committee meeting until it was a mega project. Not because I didn't want to, but there's only so much that you can do in a day.
True.
And services business is all about personalization, right? It's not a commodity, whatever. So from a customer perspective, he gets best of both the worlds. He gets the execution capability that he would expect in a large company, and he sees personalization, the way a small company can offer. Right, so that becomes our value proposition, that becomes our sweet spot, and that is what has made us stick and carve out a niche for ourselves. I mean, if you look at key technologies, one is obviously ability to set up a data center, for our customers, which necessarily calls for system integration of various pieces of technology. In fact, we have executed 3 projects in terms of implementing a private cloud for a customer.
Okay.
Okay, and that is all around VMware. So that's really the kind of services that we deliver, because all large enterprises will not embrace public cloud, at least for their key applications. So every large enterprise today is looking at having a hybrid model, setting up a private cloud. So there we are a very active player for our customers. Second is in terms of security. Again, for a large customer, we implemented 17 solutions of security for the data center. From network security, endpoint security, database security, and so on and so forth. So these are the areas that we are working with our customers. And as we move forward, hybrid cloud is going to be a reality, right? So how do we help our customers to migrate into a hybrid cloud environment? How do we enable our customers to manage a hybrid cloud environment? These are the opportunities which will start showing up as we move into this. So, if you see, our business is primarily horizontal, because we are setting up infrastructure for our customers. But nevertheless, if you see, BFSI is a big vertical for us, and BFSI is a vertical for us, utilities is a vertical for us, FMCG is a vertical for us, manufacturing is a vertical for us, but we don't really measure our revenue in vertical terms.
Okay.
We measure our revenue more in terms of in the horizontal services that we do, which are the areas that we play around with our customers. So we have a very limited presence in the government space, right? And as far as government is concerned, break it up into two. One is PSUs, second is government, pure 100% government entities and government organizations. So our play in government is very very limited, and we have a very simple principle. Unless and until we have a relationship with the customer before the tender, and unless and until the customer knows us and we know the customer, we don't engage, with government, because that can be very, very tricky. So wherever we are sure, wherever we are confident that we can execute a project and collect our money, it is only those government contracts we pick up. As far as personalization is concerned, it's very simple. Customer needs to be comfortable dealing with a service provider. And what is the comfort that he is looking for? The comfort that he is looking for is that when things go wrong, who do I approach? And if I approach that person, will my problem be solved or not? And you'll be surprised that this becomes a very very important consideration for customers. The issue is not that a problem has happened. The issue is what happens after the problem has happened, right? So personalization to a very large extent is driving comfort with customers, that the service provider is with them through thick and thin. So and that is where CMS has been able to play the role. Because today what happens is that in a large company with so much of people movement happening, companies are becoming very, very rigid in terms of their approach. That flexibility that customers look for in a service provider doesn't exist anymore. When a company is small, there is a particular way in which it works, and once it becomes a mega corporation, then its modus operandi changes completely. Uh, so that is really the basic tenet of personalization, which we have been able to fulfill as far as our customers are concerned. Now, uh, in the during pandemic, and what happens now, as things are settling down, the same challenge was there during pandemic also. So we were able to fulfill that because we had that flexibility in terms of how we operate. But more importantly, the flexibility that the customer saw was the massive effort that CMS IT made to move a lot of on-site services and deliver it remotely, right? So actually, pandemic became a good opportunity for CMS IT to deepen our relationship with our customers. So that's one. Second, and I think the more long-lasting impact of this pandemic will be that customers will become more and more amenable to remote services. This pandemic hopefully has driven that message to customers that this on-site model is not a sustainable model, both from a cost perspective as well as from a quality of service perspective, as well as from a business continuity perspective. So I think this is a long-term change which will happen, but this change will not manifest itself immediately. It will be a gradual change. And as you rightly mentioned, things are not back to normal, because the business for our customers has been damaged, because of the pandemic. Every industry is impacted. unless until you happen to be Amazon or a FMCG company. Every business has been impacted big time, and everyone is trying to figure out how to recover. Uh, it is difficult for the reasons that I highlighted. But what I'm hoping is that as we move into the future, non-linearity will be, people will be a lot more open, to non-linearity in their, uh, you know, uh, non-linearity in their services by going more and more remote. So it is going to be a challenge. It is not something which will be overcome overnight. Even in the global context, where there is a cost arbitrage, the non-linearity has not kicked in the way IT companies would have liked it to be. At the time of a hard lockdown, there was a SLA holiday, but that was more in terms of an exceptional situation. But now I think customers are back to being normal, uh, you know, and to the extent of being a little unreasonable, right? I mean, there are a bunch of customers who understand that this is an issue, right? And we try and find a workable solution, which works best for us as well as for customers. And then there are customers who are unreasonable and they say we don't care. Now, fortunately, most of our customers at least are being reasonable, right? So it's a solution that you try and find depending on how the situation evolves. And I suspect next one quarter is not going to be easy, simply because cases are spiking up. And once a wave comes in, it takes time for the wave to subside. It will not happen overnight. So, as an organization, I think one of the things that we did very well was, our outreach, to prospects as well as through our customers through digital medium. So, this lockdown and this limited mobility uh, became a good opportunity for us, to uh, to reach out to more and more prospects and make our impact. I think there we have been very successful. And over the last 3-4 months, customers had eased out, and our salespeople could go and visit customers. But now with this second wave coming in, it is again tapering off. Right. So that's point number one. Point number two, while the outreach was there, it has not led to too many closures. Uh,
Okay.
and the reason why it didn't lead to a lot of closures because customers' business was also impacted. So,
Mm.
so all fresh projects were shelved, and everyone was trying to see how to make the best out of a given situation as far as the pandemic is concerned. Uh, and third, obviously, our focus is not, because our focus now is to sell more and more to our existing customers, because there at least there is a relationship in place. Customer knows us and we know the customer, and we are able to reach out better to them. So, as I said, we were expecting a big uptick in the coming quarter, but we'll have to see how things pan out. We didn't have too many closures out of the digital outreach. Otherwise, we did business, and I think under the circumstances, we did reasonable business. No, I think we did a lot of work, to align people digitally. Take for example the digital outreach that we did. Now, Outreach is one part of it. The next part is that, how do we track that outreach? So, for example, we use lockdown as an opportunity to implement a very robust CRM system, so that at least all customer interactions, uh, opportunities are there available in CRM. Because till such time in the pre-pandemic world, you were meeting customers, and things were available with the salesperson or with a limited set of people. But now with everyone working from home, it is very important that we capture everything at one place. So we use that opportunity to implement a very robust CRM system, and now that has become the primary platform, for engagement with our customers, and monitoring our engagement with our customers. Likewise, from a project review perspective, we have again implemented a tool uh, where all the monitoring that we do for our projects happens online. So a lot of initiative has happened within the organization, to build in tools, uh, for our customer life cycle management. So unfortunately I'll not be able to name customers, because we don't have permission from those customers. But all I can tell you is that they are all large enterprises, uh, tier one enterprises with whom we do business. And if you see our top five customers, typically they will give about 20-25% of our business. Not 25, about 20% of our business. One, as I said, implementing private cloud, and um, uh, defensible cyber security. That's a big area that we play with. Second is automation. Automation as far as managed services is concerned. Uh, that's in fact that is one area which has really fueled our growth, and that is one area where we have a leadership position in the market today. You don't have even tier one companies doing the kind of automation framework that we have implemented for our managed services customers. So these are some of the use cases, which give us the credibility and the name in the market. This automation has two or three elements to it. Uh, One is proactive support, so that you tackle a problem before the problem occurs, right? So it's like problem avoidance, right? Second is, uh, once a problem occurs, how it can be solved quickly, using bots, artificial intelligence, so on and so forth, right? And the third is that, how do we implement a framework which is customer specific, because there's a pattern to calls which come in any organization. How do we detect the pattern, and how do we solve it? So we have a framework which tackles all three pieces, and it is this framework that we have implemented in our customers from an automation perspective. So we are geographically spread, because the services we offer to our customers have to be pan India, because our customers are pan India. I mean, take any BFSI customer. He is present in every nook and corner of the country. Uh, Take a manufacturing company, they will have sales and distribution across the country. So our value proposition is One of the value proposition is that we offer pan-India support. So that's actually the strength of the company. And obviously, offering pan-India, having a pan-India presence has its own challenges
True.
because you have infrastructure which has to be spread far and wide. But we have been managing it, and we have been quite successful in doing it. See, the main thing that we have been able to achieve in CMS is that we have managed to make CMS a customer-focused organization, right? Because a large company, if you see, as it becomes larger and larger, it becomes more and more inward-looking. Because then your own processes are more important than what you need to do, to our customers. So because CMS is a small company, it is easy to, make it a customer focused organization. And that is what, we have managed to do, uh, in the last 6-7 years that we have been undergoing, transformation. As far as what are the primary goals, uh, over the next 2 to 3 quarters, I think they are very simple. One is how do we deepen our relationship with our existing customers and how we can do more for our existing customers. That's point number one. Point number two is that this movement to cloud, uh, the steps in which it will happen, how we can participate with our customers. And this is a space which will continue to evolve. It is not that all answers are available as of you go and talk to a customer. It's not that he has full clarity as to what he's going to do on cloud and how he's going to. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Since it is a compliance issue, you have to do it. There are no ifs and buts. I think, the key message, that I think is very relevant in the change scenario are two things. One is to look at more and more remote services as compared to an on-site model. And second is, to look at uh, and have focus on quality of service, because I think that is going to be very, very important as we move forward. I don't think in the domestic market we have really paid a premium, or been mindful of quality of service. Whatever service delivery which has happened has been very, very people dependent, right? Whosoever is there on site in terms of what he's able to deliver. So these are the two areas which I think need a lot of focus and attention, and organizations will have to make conscious effort, to get these things through the door. And the other is obviously movement to cloud, which is not going to be an easy journey. But every organization will have to come up with a cloud roadmap uh, in terms of how they are going to embrace cloud as they move forward.